a low-scoring game, but the Panthers end up on top in Winnipeg.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Friday, January 23rd edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the nation's #1 sports podcasting network, and it is your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at MondoMan12. That is Nich Fairbanks joining me on another edition of Fairbanks Friday. You can follow him on X at Prudential0. Shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. So, Panther fans, grateful to be back here once again on another edition of the show to discuss everything in the world of the Florida Panthers. And we are recording this the morning after the Florida Panthers defeated the Winnipeg Jets by a final score of 2-1, where it was a low event game where neither team had 20 shots on goal past before regulation ended. The Panthers got the lead in the second period, carried it into the third, and even though there was a turnover in their D zone on a 4-on-4 for the Jets to tie it, and after an exciting overtime period, it was not enough, as the Panthers and the Jets needed a shootout, as the Panthers won that round of the shootout 2-0 as Daniil Tarasov shut the door for the Panthers to give them the win in this first game of the road trip. So, Nick, welcome back to the show. And man, was the takeaway for me was these two teams were they showed on the ice that they were 19th and 20th in goals for per game in the NHL on the season. And man, did we see that? We saw how top heavy the Winnipeg Jets top line is, and the fact that the Panthers really shut them down really spoke volumes into how their structure and their system really worked, despite still missing key players.
Most definitely, and that's the way you want to start your road trip, is with a win for the Florida Panthers. So kudos to them for doing that. The play between the two teams, yeah, as you said, you can definitely see why they're 19th and 20th in scoring. However, the Panthers, I think, have a little bit more excuse as to why they are where they are, and the Jets are not living up to their expectations, especially after how they started and finished last season. So you have to figure, what's going on up in Winnipeg. Is it a coaching issue? Is it still a locker room issue? Because that's always been rumored in that team. And then, getting back to last night's, actual game, Florida played a very simplistic Florida Panthers type of game. They shut down the blue line. They were not giving the Jets a lot of chances. And, the defense were pinching when they could, and they did it very well. You can't say that there was a lot of odd man rushes. And if there were, the forwards are getting back-to-back checks. So overall, Florida played the exact game that they needed to on a road game, and it led to 2 points.
Yeah, no doubt. And for the Jets here, you realize the loss of Nikolai Ehlers and how that's affected them throughout this season, and how much depth that has created in their lineup. Although they were more of a defensive team last year, with Connor Hellebuyck consistently stealing the show for them, winning both the Vezina and the Hart Trophy for them. But it's funny because for the Panthers, it wasn't even their top lines getting going until they got the goal in the second period after the Winnipeg Jets iced the puck, and then Sam Bennett was set up by Matthew Tkachuk for his first point of the season, only in his second game back. But for the Panthers here, that third line, man, the Erod, Mackie Samoskevich, AJ Greer line, they were really that line that was starting to get in with a lot of speed, getting through the neutral zone and up the gut whenever they were entering the Jets zone, and even getting the quality opportunities then. Although it really started to fade in the third period when the ice was tilted in the Winnipeg Jets' direction. The Panthers really the fact is that the Panthers really had the fact is the Panthers were able to still play with the lead and going into the third period, and also getting a chance to relax in the locker room, and also kind of think about how they were able to play in that third. Although, again, we mentioned it at the very top, that turnover by Uvis Belinskis when they were 4-on-4 that ended up, but by Jonathan Toews, Selke Trophy winner, Conn Smythe winner, 3-time Stanley Cup champion, setting up Gabriel Velarde. The Panthers never panicked from there.
No, and you can definitely see why this team has won 2 cups or gone to 3 cups finals in a row, or final in a row. And it's just the poise that this team has. They don't overreact to things. And on top of that is whoever the leader is at the time, whether it's Barkov, Tkachuk, Bennett, Reinhart, the team is going to, follow their lead. So I want to give kudos to the third line and also the fourth line for the first 2 periods, because they played nasty and they played quick, which I think did throw off the Winnipeg Jets' game plan, because I think they were trying to play shutdown as well, but you can't shut down speed 100% of the time. So if you have speed like Samoskevich and Greer, who's got a bigger body and was showing moves I didn't even know he had in one of his good chances, it makes the Winnipeg Jets have to kind of somewhat change their game plan, because you would think that would be off of the top 2 lines, not necessarily third or fourth line. So they definitely did their job. And then the first line, you had Lundell, Reinhart, and Losterrainen. They did a great job shutting down the Scheifele line. I mean, as you said, they were top heavy, but they did not get a lot of chances. Lundell was great in the circle, which did not allow them to have possession, which, again, it was another big factor in this game. If the Panthers didn't have the puck, then the Jets were coming in and trying to, really move their muscle around and try to win battles. It didn't happen a lot, but there were a few times. And then finally, Matthew Tkachuk looked like himself last night, not only skating, but, getting more of a groove in the game, getting him a feel. I'm going to give him a few more games because, listen, he hasn't played in 7-8 months competitively. He's coming off a major surgery and a major injury. It's going to be okay if he's not going to be himself. But the fact is that he showed up last night. He was getting into brawls, I'll say, or he was starting stuff. It was good to see that again, and the team followed him. So, again, you always have to follow the people who are willing to lead.
Yeah, and Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele combined for 2 shots on goal, and a big stop by Daniil Tarasov that went off the end boards and got the leg out right before. Although I questioned whether that hit the post first before Tarasov got his leg there, but they counted that as a shot on goal. So, but still, Daniil Tarasov was outstanding. And also, you mentioned about Matthew Tkachuk looking like himself. Also looking like himself was the fact that of agitating the opposition. Logan Stanley, who actually got into a little bit of an altercation with Brady Tkachuk earlier this month, also got one. Also was a lot of the post whistle stuff with Matthew Tkachuk. Also, him and AJ Greer both got these roughing penalties as well. Both of them in the 4-minute variety, which ended up coincidental. And also when it's it's 5-on-5 as opposed to 4-on-4 then. So that's another thing about how the Panthers just psychologically hurt you there. So that's also the credit to how the Panthers are back to their identity and just getting that boost in their lineup, which is big. And also the fact is, when they scored to make it 1-0, there was a big penalty kill right before. Evan Rodriguez spoke about it with Katie Engelson after the second intermission about how they gained the momentum after that, and especially because for the Jets, it was a lot of tired bodies on the ice. So that was really big for the Winnipeg Jets there. And it was that Scheifele line that was the tired one that iced the puck. So the fact that they were getting a goal off that line, huge for this Florida Panthers team. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where we're going to discuss our 3 stars of the game and then the moment when we knew the game was won. We'll discuss that more next year on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action, because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts that you can apply to the bets you like the most. When your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. Boost lets you lean into game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. The boost gives you more juice on the bet you already like instead of forcing you on something new. Every play feels bigger, and the boost makes your bet feel that way too. You make your picks, apply your profit boost pack to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. And I'd like to thank you guys once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the nation's #1 sports podcasting network. And if you haven't already, go check out our Everydayer Club. It's an access to an ad-free audio feed for the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. It's an invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of the show. Tap the link in the show notes to learn more. So, back here on a Fairbanks Friday edition of the show as the Florida Panthers win against the Winnipeg Jets by a final score of 2-1 in a shootout. Now the Panthers are 3-1 in the shootout, 17-0-1 when leading after 2 periods, and 12-3-1 after losing in regulation. And more importantly, Paul Maurice gets his first win as Florida Panthers head coach in Winnipeg since resigning from his position. Also, Paul Maurice spoke about how much it meant for him to return there. Also, the fact that he got to see his daughter coach on Wednesday night for her hockey team. So that's awesome to see there. But it's a Florida Panthers win, which means we are going to discuss our 3 stars of the game and then the moment when we knew the game was won. So third star for me is going to be the third line. And for the Jets there, Scott Arniel mostly put the Taze line against that line. Although the goal was scored at 4-on-4, it was a different pairing for the Panthers there. It was not Evan Rodriguez with his usual line mates. He was actually with Verhaeghe. And then when that third line was actually matched up with the Scheifele line, they didn't give up a single shot attempt there. That's according to Natural Stat Trick. So credit to that third line for how they performed there on the evening. Number 2 star for me is going to be Sam Reinhart, the shootout winner. Both he and Anton Lundell are 50% on the season in the shootout. So I guess it's not really hyperbole after all when it comes to how Anton Lundell has really turned into Baby Barkov there. So awesome to see that they have stepped up when they have. And a number 1 star, you got to give it to Daniil Tarasov. If you're watching this on the YouTube, I put Dan the Man with the parentheses with Daniil in it. So kind of a little bit of a South Florida flavor with a legendary quarterback. But lost his first 4 starts for himself, and now he's back. He's over 500, 7-6-2 on the season, over 900 save percentage for the season. So it's great to see that the Panthers are getting some wins with Daniil Tarasov between the pipes there. So your 3 stars, Nick.
So I'm actually going to give him his flowers because I feel like he helped out a lot last night. Aaron Ekblad, I felt that the first pairing defense had a pretty good game, but there were some spots where I felt Forsling could have been better or was not handling the puck that well, and he found himself in a little bit of trouble. Correct. And Ekblad comes in and helps clean out. He was not soft on the puck all night. He was getting a bunch of those clears, and his patented flip of the puck out of the zone, which I absolutely love. And I'm glad the Panthers have, really gone towards that. Second star is going to be Anton Lundell. Of course, got to give him his flowers as well. The fact is that I think he was at least a 55 or 60% face-off last night, continues to grow. And then on top of that, taking on the tough assignments while still being effective, not only defensively, but also, creating chances with his line with Reinhart and Luostarinen. And the first star, of course, has got to be Tarasov. I honestly think that had maybe 1 or 2 of those chances gone in, the Panthers would not have won. With how tight and how few chances there were last night. All it took was 1, and he showed up and made the saves when he had to. And that's something that I feel the Panthers have lacked this season, getting a save when they really, really need it. Unfortunately, I think Bob is it's been an unfortunate season stat wise, and he's been letting in goals that maybe the Panthers really need to stop in, especially, during certain times of the game. But, Tarasov looking much better. He didn't get a lot of run support again, but you know what? They didn't need it this game. So hopefully going forward, he's going to get a few more starts and they will be able to put some more goals up. So congratulations to him.
Yeah, unfortunately, still does not have a shutout this season. All the shutouts are to Sergei Bobrovsky, but still performing so well there. And I'm glad you mentioned Aaron Ekblad because of the poor play from Gustav Forsling. There was 2 plays in the first period that I recall. There was one where the puck just goes off his tape right before the Panthers were exiting the blue line. Mark Scheifele got a mini breakaway, but was stopped and didn't even hit the net. And the penalty that Evan Rodriguez committed on the trip to Mark Scheifele, that's because Scheifele was on the forecheck that separated the puck from Gustav Forsling in the first place. That had Evan Rodriguez trying to go for a check, and then unfortunately got the sticks under him. So that's because of Gustav Forsling turnover from there. But I also thought Niko Mikla was outstanding with his puck battles. He did draw a penalty from one of the Winnipeg Jets players because of a shot that was missed, and then he battled along the goal or around there. It was on Alex Iafallo just shortly after when the Panthers went on the penalty kill. So that was the abbreviated power play that they had in the beginning. And the fact is, this game for both teams, there wasn't a lot of power play time as well. So the Panthers really truly kept this game to 5-on-5, which is where their really true strength is for them. So big ups to Niko Mikla. As an honorable mention, you mentioned Aaron Ekblad as well. So I thought those guys performed outstanding. The moment when we knew the game was won, when Danil Tarasov made the stop on Mark Scheifele in the second round of the shootout, and then once we saw Sam Reinhart take the ice for an opportunity to end it right there, right before he even took the puck and scored in the shootout for the Panthers there, I thought that the Panthers were going to get the second point. And man, let's also talk about how big this second point was for the Panthers. The fact that Boston won in regulation, although there was a little bit of a scare with the comeback as well. Same thing with Buffalo. They defeated Montreal, and Montreal was trying to come back as well, but neither Vegas nor Montreal could force overtime. So, and the Panthers, they jumped 3 teams on Thursday night. They jumped New Jersey, Washington, and Philadelphia, and they have games in hand as well. So that's a big help for that. The Panthers helped themselves with getting that shootout win. So when Danil Tarasov made the stop on Mark Scheifele, that's when I knew the game was won for the Panthers.
So I'm going to go a shooter just before when he stopped Kyle Connor. Because he's the most lethal guy as far as a forward goes, a pure goal scorer. And when he made him make an extra move and was able to stop the puck, because he was going 5-hole. He was trying to be slick and go 5-hole. And Tarasov did a great job in making him make an extra move so that way he would have a better way of being in position to stop that from happening. And if you can shut down another team's top sniper, you have a greater chance of actually being able to win the game. And of course, you have Lundell and you have Reinhart, who are just sick this season in the shootout and have been for their career. So it really was, a 3-pronged attack for them to win in the shootout.
Yeah, no doubt. And like we mentioned, the Panthers 3-1 in the shootout this season, defeating Dallas, Carolina, and now Winnipeg. The only loss that they got in the shootout was against the Anaheim Ducks this season at home. So that's the only one. So, hey, no Barkov, no problem when it comes to at least that part of the game for the Panthers. And also, how exciting was that overtime, especially Sam Bennett with the back checks and creating the 2-on-1s. I thought that was a really exciting overtime period despite no goals.
It was, and you could tell that there were some tired guys out there.
Yeah.
I wish they would have gotten some more line changes in, but I think you had Lundell, and I don't remember if he was paired up with Reinhart, which I think he was, and they were out there for like the first minute and a half of overtime, so that kind of might have messed up the lines a little bit. But I think with having those fresh legs, having that extra time really did help. And I'm just glad Tarasov, stood on business and that the Panthers had the better of the chances, which again, it just showed that they did deserve the 2 points at the end of the day.
Yeah, 2-1 advantage in the shots category for the Panthers there. So and for the Panthers, thankfully they were able to at least get the extra point there on the evening. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we are going to discuss the weekend for the Panthers, as they will be visiting I could say, cup contender in the Minnesota Wild, and then a up and coming team in the Chicago Blackhawks. We'll discuss that more next year in the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Segment number 3 here on this Friday, January 23rd edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Fairbanks Friday edition of the show. Now the Panthers will be taking their show on the road, continuing it in Minnesota on Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time puck drop in St. Paul. And then the very next day, just the 22-hour rule in the NHL, where on back-to-backs, where now they will be facing the Chicago Blackhawks on Sunday evening. And chances are that our friend here on the show, Nich Fairbanks, might be at both games, as he is our Panther fan residing in Minnesota. So there's that chance that he could be attending both games. But man, have the Wild really kept their promise to Kirill Kaprizov when it comes to trying to build a contender around him? Yeah, he reset the market on his new deal, but the fact that Billy Guerin was able to get to trade for first round, well, not the picks themselves, but 3 players who were picked in the first round, and then a future first for defenseman Quinn Hughes, and now he's at a point per game pace, over a point per game, and a 98 point pace in an 82 game season for himself since joining the Wild. And the problem with Minnesota at the beginning of the season was too reliant on the power play and not enough 5-on-5 scoring. And that was with Zeev Boyum running the power play right before he got traded to the Vancouver Canucks. And the fact is that they're getting a little bit healthier. Joel Eriksson Ek returned to lineup on Thursday night against the Red Wings. So did Marcus Johansson as well. But man, not only do they have the power play scoring, but they have the 2 outstanding goaltenders out there for themselves, both going to be on the Swedish national team for them. Jesper Wallstedt, the Wall of St. Paul, and then Philip Gustafsson as well. So that's going to be a strength for Sweden as well, although they are hurting a little bit with no Jonas Brodin, no Leo Carlsson for Team Sweden, no William Nylander. Oliver Ekman-Larsson just got hurt. But those guys are 2 guys for the Olympics who are going to be, although you can only start 1, that's a very encouraging sign for Team Sweden to possibly medal.
Most definitely. I think that's one team that you can definitely say probably has the edge in goaltending. I mean, you can look at the United States and Canada, and, you can have an argument there. But if I were to go with the goaltending department, I would want to go with Sweden. But back to this weekend's games. Hopefully going to be able to make it. I'm kind of day-to-day right now with something that's going on, but hopefully I can muscle through it. And I'm looking for another really well-played road game, not to make everything complicated, because the Wild do have speed. They do have a better defense now than they did last season, and Bill Guerin was able to offload some of the contract issues that he might have had I'm speaking about Rossi, because he wanted a bigger, better contract. And a lot of people in Minnesota didn't really think he probably deserved that type of money because he hadn't 100% proved himself like Kaprizov did. So I think things are coming together for the team. When Kaprizov initially declined the first contract offer, all the talk was, and I think I texted you about it, that he'll be gone before October starts, because who's going to turn down $16 million? It's almost like a slap in the face. Like, hey, we're going to make you the highest paid forward, and yet you're still turning this down. Like, are you crazy? But no, they've really started to come together, and getting Quinn Hughes just adds another layer, and he's been fantastic since he's here. Maybe you can answer this for me. Maybe you can't. What is this whole ghost thing going on with him? Is it just like he just stares off into the sunset, or just stares off somewhere and people think he's seeing ghosts or something? Or does he really see ghosts?
Yeah, he has that stone looked face on him. And So it's kind of weird, like to see like what his feeling is. It kind of reminds me of Indiana head coach Kirk Cignetti. He has the same facial expression for everything, and also the Wild players were caught off guard based on how he leaves the bench. He's literally like fully horizontal there when he leaves the bench, full laying on the stomach with the skates as well on the bench. So it's kind of awkward the way he exits the bench there as well. So that's the thing for Quinn Hughes. But hey, everyone has their own little quirks there. But that's going to be not only is Quinn Hughes such a big strength for this team, but the fact is that his D partner in Brock Faber, they're going to be together more than likely in the Winter Olympics as well. So that's another thing that you don't have to. That's one less question that Team USA will have when it comes to their D-core in the Olympics, because those two are just so used to playing with one another. So that's I'm very excited to watching that one. But one more thing before we move on to Chicago. So Jesper Wallstedt played in Iowa for a few years, has multiple shutouts on the season. Do you know who traded out of that pick for the Minnesota Wild to get Jesper Wallstedt?
Our friends and our mortal enemy for the last couple seasons, the Edmonton Oilers.
Yes. So, yep, that was the team that traded out of that pick for Jesper Wallstedt out of that, which is a little bit of comedy there. And also, Edmonton just faced Pittsburgh last night in Stuart Skinner's return there. So,
and he won.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, but let's move on to Chicago. We've seen what injuries can do to a veteran team versus a young team, and Connor Bedard missed 12 games due to a shoulder injury, and it was a freak injury as well. It was towards the end of a game against the St. Louis Blues off of a face-off with Braden Shen, but the Hawks didn't fall too much behind the 8-ball there. But they're 5-6-1 when Connor Bedard was out. But talk about guys who have rebounded from last season to this season. Tyler Bertuzzi now being more comfortable in Chicago now for himself. So great for him. And also another player who missed a lot of time in Frank Nazar, just like Charlie McAvoy taking a puck to the face. That happened with Frank Nazar as well earlier in the season there as well. But for the Panthers, really truly had to grind out that win on opening night. Thankfully, Jesper Boquist was able to give the Panthers the goal in the third period to grind it out. And that was a whole week of the Panthers grinding it out in the first of the season. They also did so against Philadelphia in that homestand. But also, Spencer Knight, 6 straight starts with a 900 save percentage or better. And he has 3 shutouts on the season. So he's also been on an upward trajectory as well. And also, once again, we talked about multiple times on the show how much that trade has worked out for both the Panthers and the Blackhawks. But the Hawks have a whole bunch of cap space going into this offseason, and the only player that they really have to pay is Connor Bedard. They can supplement the lineup if they wanted to with maybe taking on some short-term deals from a trade for maybe Dougie Hamilton or Andre Palat, or if they want to do a trade for Braden Schneider of the New York Rangers as a recollection project as well, who's going to be an RFA this summer, they can do so as well. So they have so many options going forward outside of just paying Connor Bedard.
They really do, and I have to say that their GM, I think it's Davidson,
Kyle Davidson,
has done a very good job in ensuring that they are going to have plenty of money not only for Bedard, but they recognize that they have to surround him with talent. And I think Tyler Bertuzzi was a great signing. It's funny because he thought he was going to break the bank, and yet he signed for the same amount of money that he did in Toronto. So he's not making anything more, but I think it helps Bertuzzi right now that he's being coached by the same coach, that he did coming into the league in Blashill. So he's already comfortable with what the system's going to be and what his job is. And he was successful in doing those type of things. I mean, when he went to Boston that one season where Panthers took him out in 7, Bertuzzi was one of those players that gave Panthers problems. I mean, he was in front of the net, he was tipping pucks, or he was doing all the things that made him successful. He's doing that again now. So that's somebody I would keep an eye on. And the fact that Frank Nazar is coming back, and he was actually one of the big players, I guess, that made a difference in the first game of the season. He's going to come out flying. And then you have Spencer Knight, who, he's going to, if he's playing on Sunday, he's going to have, a chip on his shoulder, not in a negative way, but it's just saying, hey, you guys traded me, so I got to show up big again. So I expect it to be a good game. I do believe that Tarasov is probably going to start the Sunday game, and you're going to get Bobrovsky Saturday. So I'm hoping at least this weekend to get probably maybe 3 points. But with the way that this team can play on the road, I will say 4 is possible. So that's where I'm going to probably leave it.
Road penalty kill is still really great for this Florida Panthers team as well. And the Panthers have not done this season. They have not put Danilo Tarasov on the front end of a back-to-back at all this season. So I doubt they're going to do a situation where Bob starts on Monday and then wait all the way until Sunday for him to start. So you're right when it comes to us believing that Sergei Bobrovsky will get the start on Saturday night in St. Paul. And then how the Panthers, when the Panthers are tired and on the second end, they're a little bit more tighter, not as much to the outside, and that it'll prevent the middle of the ice to be open. And we saw that definitely against the Winnipeg Jets, where you only give up 18 shots throughout the entirety of the game. And also with Chicago on Sunday being the less the worst of the offensive teams as opposed to Minnesota, that would definitely help them as far as possibly getting a win. I'll have 2 monitors on for definitely on Sunday, as it'll be conference championship weekend for the NFL. I'm hoping Sam Darnold can get a win for the Seahawks, but I don't think they're going to be the favorite. And let's hope that the New England Patriots don't win, because they've had enough winning and they've only had to rebuild for 5 years before being relevant again. Yeah, I get them out of here, please. But so we're definitely gonna have some fun. And also one more thing for the Blackhawks, Nick Lardis. He was in Brantford last year, and I remember talking with Jack Bushman last year. 65 goals in the OHL last year for the Brantford Bulldogs, and he's a 2023 third-round pick. Now he's starting to make waves with the Chicago Blackhawks team. So this youth movement that they have there, it's exciting. So that's another thing that I'm very excited to see here for this game. But Nick, any final words before we sign off here on this Fairbanks Friday edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast?
Yeah, so we've had a few games where the Panthers have not looked like themselves, or they've gotten blown out. It's very easy to be reactive and emotional about that kind of thing. I mean, you and I last week had I don't want to say a meltdown, but we were like this close. But I think it was more frustration out of anything, because we know this team is better than that, and Bob is better than that, and the defense is better than that. So I think the way the team is right now, I think if they stay healthy through the Olympic break, and then they get some more guys back after the Olympic break, they're going to be just fine. And the fact that last night proved that they can jump 3 teams with just 1 win, they are still in this. And I think out of all the teams that are ahead of them, like for the wild card spot, they are the better team. So if you think about it, if they continue to play the way that they are cohesively, they should be able to make the playoffs. But anyways, thanks for having me back on. You guys can follow me on X at Prudentia0, and I will definitely have to check in with you when I'm in the casino arena over here in St. Paul, and then when I'm at the UC on Sunday.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of drama this weekend in the NHL as Mitch Marner makes his return to Toronto tonight, actually. So that's going to be some fun as far as one of the teams who are ahead.
How many jerseys are going to be on the ice?
Yes, and Montreal and Boston, always a classic rivalry on Saturday night. So can't wait for that one as well. But Nick, thank you so much as always, and see you next week.
See you next week.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone, and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Nich Fairbanks. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network, We're your team every day.